Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to the Charlie Mike Webinar Series 22, hosted by the National Small Business Coalition. I'm Earl Morgan, the Program Director for the NVSBC. Thank you for joining us today. Yeah. I would like to thank BAE Systems and Philips NA for allowing us to have this webinar series possible. Okay, just one announcement. Of course, we are now less than 1 month away for VEX 22 in Orlando, Florida. The team has working to have a great program for you. So please come down to the DoubleTree Hotel in Orlando, Florida, and to join us for VEX 22. We will provide you a link to the conference to register right after this presentation. Okay, this webinar is 1 hour and 15 minutes and is being recorded. The slides and recording will be sent to all attendees by Friday this week. If you have any questions, please type it on the right hand of your control panel on your screen. We have a special moderator today, the Executive Director for the National Small Business Coalition, Mr. Scott Jensen. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Earl. We appreciate it as always. Appreciate all your hard work in supporting the Charlie Mike series and making sure that this is such a great success. It's great to be here with you today. You know, at NVSBC, we share a very special relationship with the Small Business Administration. Not only are we formal strategic partners, having just renewed our memorandum of understanding with the SBA, but we also, as part of that, have a very special and close relationship with the Veteran Business Outreach Centers, the VBOCs, that are spread out throughout the country, as well as with the leadership at SBA. And finally, this last year, we were honored to have been awarded as one of the grantees for the Community Navigator program in partnership with the Institute for Veteran and Military Families up at Syracuse University. So all of that under the auspices of the Small Business Administration. And it's my real pleasure to introduce someone I consider a friend, as well as a colleague in the small business world, and that's Mr. Larry Stubblefield, who is the Associate Administrator for the Office of Veteran Business Development. We couldn't do what we do and get the support that we get as veteran business owners without Mr. Larry Stubblefield. In his role, Larry oversees the OVBD team in developing and implementing policies and programs that equip veterans, service members, and military spouses in their small businesses. They provide counseling and education, access to capital, and contracting opportunities. Mr. Stubblefield joined the SBA in 2016, serving as the Assistant Administrator for the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights, and most recently as the Acting Associate Administrator for OVBD. Prior to that, though, he held numerous leadership positions with the U.S. Army, to include a Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Diversity and Leadership. Larry is a first-hand military experience guy, is why I love spending so much time with him, having served 30 years as an enlisted soldier and an active duty officer in the Army. In 2005, he retired from the military as a colonel and was appointed to the Senior Executive Service. Larry is the recipient of the Distinguished Presidential Rank Award, and he holds an MBA from the University of Tennessee and a BS in Business Management from Embry-Riddle Aeronautic University. Again, Larry, it's our privilege to have you here today. We really appreciate you taking time out of what I know is an incredibly busy schedule. CVE is top of mind, and I know with your appointment from the administrator as the leader of this effort, it's certainly front of your mind. So taking some time with our audience and our team, you really do a service. So thanks for being here with us. And I'll turn it over to you and let you and Earl get the slides ready, and I'll see you on the back end here with some questions and answers when we're done. Thanks, Larry.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks for that kind introduction, and thanks for having me here. It's always a pleasure. I echo what you just said about our great relationship, and I'll talk a little bit more about that during the presentation. But it's great being here. So I'm going to jump to the first slide, the agenda slide. We go to the next slide, please. And so, as Scott, as you just said, the CVE transfer is definitely top of mind for all of us at SBA. It's the administrator's #1 priority. So I'm going to cover where we are today with the CVE, to include our plans for migrating the system over. We have a timeline for that. And then just talk a little bit about advancing equity and federal procurement. There's some changes that our Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, working with OMB, have made in that space. And then I thought I would conclude by just showing a short video on surety bonding. I'm not the expert on surety bonds, but considering the fact that recently the infrastructure bill was passed, and there's trillions of dollars that are going out to the economy for rebuilding the infrastructure across the nation, I thought it would be a good point to at least point out that SBA can support members who are interested in participating in construction and would need surety bonds. So we'll jump right to the next slide and just talk a little bit about the CVE transfer. Next slide. So the background information here, I know, at the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, all of you are very well aware of the fact that with the FY21 National Defense Authorization Act, it mandated that the CVE move over to SBA. And so what this is going to do, again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here, but what this is going to do is we're going to now have all certification programs at SBA. So we're talking about 8A, HubZone, WASB, and SDVOSB under one roof, if you will. And then we're looking to eliminate self-certification. So the message that we've been putting out to the veteran small business community is that if you're within the 6-month window, say you're currently certified with the VA, and you're within that 6-month window because they reach out to you when you're within 6 months of recertification, we're asking that you take that seriously and go to the VA now and start the re-verification process, as well as, there's about 20,000 plus SDVOSBs registered in SAM that have not done business with the federal government, but if they're interested in doing business, we're asking them to also, go forward and approach the VA and get the process started, because what we don't want at the end of the day, and as we draw close to the 1 January timeframe, is to have a huge bottleneck, So I appreciate you helping get the word out in that regard. So 6 months out, please reach out to the VA, and the VA has agreed to this. They're ramping up and ready for it. And if you're SDVOSB and you're interested in doing business with the federal government and you haven't done so in the past, we're urging you now to get that the certification. Because as the last bullet on this slide indicates, and I said earlier, after the transfer, if you want to do business in the federal space, as either a VOSB or SDVOSB, you'll have to be certified through SBA. So we'll go to the next slide, please. And as I indicated, this is truly top of the mind for Administrator Guzman. I meet with her on a regular basis to give her progress reports. She, in turn, has a cadence now with the VA Secretary, Mr. McDonough, and the two of them have agreed that they're going to work, we're all going to work very hard to make the transition as smooth as possible. As you heard in my introduction, back in January, the administrator reached out to me and tapped me to be the executive director for the CVE program at SBA. And then we also stood up a Tiger team. So we have 10 of our top-notch employees that are on this Tiger team. And the boxes you see on this slide are the areas that we've been focused on. I'll start with funding. I know there's been a lot of questions in the veteran small business community about funding the transfer. And I will tell all of you that we've worked very hard with OMB and with staffers on the Hill. We do have the funding for the bill, and I'll talk about that, the tech bill. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we also have funding now for FY23, and we're continuing to work with the VA for possible additional funding, because one area of concern is that if we, and in all likelihood, we will have a CR, a continuing resolution to kick off FY23, and we've got to discuss ways to work around that, the CR. I would like to, at this point too, just thank all of you for the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, your support on funding, because, we realize that you're very active on the Hill, and we're, and as Scott indicated in his opening remarks, we work very closely with Scott and others there at the National Veteran Small Business Coalition to address the funding. And so we know for a fact that you played a very important role in making sure that we are funded to do this. So, from the administrator and everyone at SBA, thank you very much. The technology, I'll talk a little bit more about it on the next slide, but we're working with the VA to transfer the data that the VA currently have on hand, with their VIP system. And then where the policy is concerned, we've recently, you have to go through the rulemaking process, if you will. So we've got the proposed rule at OMB. Last week, we had a meeting with OMB and walked them through some of the changes. There's not a lot of major changes or anything of that nature. We've taken the VA reg and just sat down and kind of incorporated it in SBA's reg. And as a result, we came up with the proposed rule. So it's up at OMB. We're asking for a quick turnaround. And what we would like to have is for the rule to go with a 30-day public comment period starting sometime in May. We had initially thought it would be 4 May through 3 June, but I think OMB is going to take a little bit more time looking at it. But we'll definitely keep you posted on the public comment period, because we're very interested in feedback from the veteran small business community, as we work to come up with the final rule. And then lastly on the slide here, just talking about personnel, again, our HR is working with the VA's HR in terms of transferring the VA staff over to SBA, keeping in mind that the VA, they're going to be processing applications all the way up until the end. And so, this is something that we're closely monitoring, how we do the personnel piece. So on the very next slide is the timeline. And I'll start over on the left-hand side where we currently are, where it says May 22nd. We're in the procurement phase right now. We've worked through the performance work statement. We're working with our acquisition core, if you will, to get that out on the streets, the request out on the streets. And what we would like to do is make an award and then at least start the build in the June, no later than July timeframe. On this slide, it indicates June through September, and it could slip a little bit to July. Notice on the slide that it says leveraging existing technology to develop the new system. What we're not doing this from scratch. We're actually building off of our success with the PPP forgiveness and the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. So the goal is is to take that current platform, enhance that platform, and the administrator's vision is to create what we're calling the unified lending platform. On this platform will be all of the SBA lending programs and all of our certification programs. So in other words, the client, the customer, the veteran would come to My SBA and be able to enter into the portal and say, for example, if you were a woman veteran and you wanted to get your woman-owned small business certification, your WASB certification, you can apply for your WASB certification, online. And at the same time, we would ask, are you interested in your SDVOSB certification as well? You could also apply, and again, this goes back to, a complaint we've heard for years, and a rightful complaint, in terms of having these separate programs and then having to do, the same documentation for, whether you're applying for HubZone or WASB or whatever. Now you'll be able to apply for the various programs, in the portal. We'll reach back out to the VA. We'll ask 2 questions. Is this a veteran? Yes. Is this a service disabled veteran? Yes. You've got your WASB certification as well as your SDVOSB certification. And oh, by the way, do you need lending? And so all of this would be done in this My SBA portal that we're creating. So we're very excited about this. The CVE would be the first certification program that would be on the portal. And then at some point, going forward, we would migrate the other certification programs. And I bring up this thing about leveraging existing technology because it's been pointed out to me before that the thought that we would be building something brand new in July and making it to, being able to make that one January 2023 date is something that people were kind of scratching their heads on. So I appreciate the feedback, that I've gotten, and discussions from, folks like you, Scott, who pointed that out. So thank you very much for helping us think through that. And then the rest of the slide here just talks about, in the October timeframe, how we would start migrating. Let's go back a slide. I'm sorry. Yeah, in the October timeframe, where we would start bringing on the CVE director, the verification staff. We know that we have to set up a system to do site visits and things of that nature. We'll be doing the user acceptance testing. The November timeframe, this is when we really get into the contract support for the verification piece of this. I just mentioned the on-site audits. And then we want to do a pilot in the November timeframe. And we're looking maybe to reach out to the veteran small business community and have maybe perhaps a few hundred veteran-owned businesses go through the new system, with the thought being that they would get their certification 1 January, one SBA is responsible for the system. And then in the December time period, start migrating the rest of the staff over. And then 1 January 2023 would be when we would cut over to the new platform. Is this an aggressive timeline? Yes. Is there a lot of things dependent on us being able to make it? Yes, to include, OMB support with the rule, and a few other areas. I mentioned earlier the possibility of a CR, the possibility of needing additional funding, because it's we are talking about now going federal wide with the CVE program. But for right now, we feel pretty good where we are to get this to get this launched. And I'm very much interested in your questions and your thoughts and your comments on the CVE timeline and what you think about what you think about the plan as I've just articulated. So we'll go to the next slide. And so the one thing that we want to be every step of the way of this journey is we want to be completely transparent. We want to be completely transparent. We want the veteran small business community to know what we're doing. I'm doing, webinars and meetings, with our district offices, with other VSOs. I know with this group, with all of you, you're going to be with us every step of the way. And so this slide here just talks about the outreach and communication portion of what it is that we plan to do. And the second bullet is the one I would really like to highlight, the CVE transfer at SBA.gov. That's a mailbox that we've stood up. We've gone out to the public to say, if you have a question about anything concerning the CVE transfer, email us at CVE Transfer at SBA.gov, and we'll get right back with you with an answer. And you can also, using CVE Transfer at SBA.gov, say that you would like to receive monthly email updates. We put an update out every month in terms of where we are. So if you would like to receive that update, we'd add you to our stakeholder list. But again, this is CVE Transfer at SBA.gov if you have any questions or if you'd like to be on that mailing list. And then we have our advisory committee on Veterans Business Affairs. The committee meets quarterly, I should say. And the next quarterly meeting is going to be on June 2nd. During our advisory committee meetings, we devote a portion of that meeting to cover the CVE transfer, to provide an update and answer questions from the public. And then the last bullet there just talks about office hours. We're looking sometime this summer to roll out a campaign where we would, go across the nation, if you will, having office hours where we would give updates, to the veteran small business community and the public, in terms of, where we are, what to expect, and then at the same time conduct a Q&A, a question and answer session. So the next slide. Again, so I'm gonna switch gears. I know we're gonna go back to the Q&A for this CVE here in a second. But I just want to talk about a few things here. We'll go to the next slide, please. I want to talk about a few things that the administration has been working on in terms of procurement, changes in procurement, equity and in federal procurement. I think some of this you may have heard. Let me just look here one quick second. I want to just say here real quick too that I know one of the things we've heard, at least in my office, in the Office of Veterans Business Development, is the 3% goal for SDVOSBs. So as I walk through these numbers and percentages and things, keep in mind that that is something that that we hear on a regular basis, that the goal needs to be needs to be higher. And I will tell you that I think it was last year that the House had come up with a version that would have raised the SDVOSB goal to, I believe it was 8%, and some of the other goals as well. It didn't make it, out of the Senate. I don't even know if it made it to the Senate, but my point being that it is on the Hill, and I know this is probably an area that MVS BC that you advocate for as well. So we're partners with you every step of the way on the goaling. But this slide here just talks about the increase goal now for the services disadvantaged business. From 5%, the president announced in the middle of last year, I think it was in the June timeframe, that this goal was going to go from 5% to 11% in 22, and then by FY25, it would be, the final goal would be 15%. So we're doing a lot of work in terms of getting the word out to the federal agencies. And one of the bullets here, the third one here, just talks about the work that our Office of Government Contracting and Business Development is doing in terms of reaching out to the 24 agencies, I should say 23, because, you know, we're one of them, you know, urging them to make this 11% goal in 22 and really monitoring to see the progress there. The one thing, and this is another thing I know we've talked about a lot too, and that's the bullet there that talks about SBA working with federal agencies to track new contractors enter into federal procurement. And the issue there is there's more and more funding going into federal procurement and fewer small businesses participating in federal contracting for a number of reasons, to include bundling, you know, category management, and so forth. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the change to category management here in a second, but we talk about making our 3% goal, but we've never really looked at, I mean, that's 3% in the aggregate, but we've never looked at how many businesses are participating in that 3% goal, in making that 3% goal. So now the emphasis is going to be on not just looking at the amount of money or funding that's in federal procurement, but looking at the number of businesses that are participating in the process, if you will. So this is a huge ongoing effort with the administrator and our associate administrator in our Office of Government Contracting and Business Development, and they've worked through all of this with OMB to get OMB support to make the case to OMB. Because I believe if we have Bibi Hildago here with us today, you know, she's our associate administrator in the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. She talks about 10 years ago how we had close to 180,000 small businesses participating in procurement, and now today it's somewhere around like 70,000 or so. So a huge top of mind issue here for the administrator. And then on the next slide, I'm just going to talk real quickly about some of the changes to category management. And again, I feel like you probably all know this, but I'll just touch on it a little bit. But, you know, so we've taken the socioeconomic categories, and category management had listed them in category 0, or tier 0, if you will. And a huge success story here now is the fact that we've moved the socioeconomic categories to tier 2, and that also includes, you know, the SDVOSBs as well. And now this is going to give our contracting officers across the federal government a little bit more breathing room, because they're trying to make their category management goals. And if you were in tier 0, I mean, they weren't even paying any attention to you. So tier 2 is going to open up more opportunity there. And then the rest of the bullets on this slide just talks about some of the emphasis that is going to be put on senior executives and employees who had contracting activities. Now they're going to have performance goals, you know, in their annual performance goals, if you have goals for procurement. So again, this is huge to have this, you know, your annual performance plan has to talk about how you're going to help secure, you know, these goals for the socioeconomic classes. And then the last 2 bullets here just talks about what we're doing with our PCRs and CMRs. You know, the emphasis again, and in fact, I hear on a regular basis from, you know, veteran business owners who, you know, the one area that I'm really focused on right now is subcontracting. And I think all of you know that subcontracting is subcontract can go either way for you. And in some cases, you know, because the general stance of the government is the relationship is between the government and the prime, you know, subcontractors sometimes get left out in the cold. And so I'm working a few cases right now where, you know, subcontractors have, you know, felt like they haven't been treated fairly, you know, by the primes. So we're really energizing our PCRs now, CMRs to you know, to take a look at this and get more involved with the contracting officers. And then the last one there, Bullet just talks about our business opportunity specialists and our resource partners, the extra work that they're doing, you know, to make sure that, you know, WASB, HubZone, 8A, CVE, and others, SDVOSBs, you know, are prepared as much as they can to be, you know, to be as competitive as possible. So I'm sure there's going to be a couple of comments on this area as well. And like I said, I'm well aware of the issue about the 3% goaling, and it's been 3% for some time now, and that's also another top of mind issue, and another way that we can probably partner with the coalition to keep that on the table with our congressional staffers and congressional members. And then the last thing, I'm going to shift gears one more time before we go to the Q&A, and just talk about surety bonds. So if we switch over, let me just say this: I am not the subject matter expert for surety bonds, and we do have you know, a crew of folks who have offered. I mean, they work in our surety bonds office. They've offered to come to one of your webinars. So just let me know after you see this video if this is something you would like to have us, you know, come back and present, go a little bit more into surety bonding. But with that, I'll just say, Earl, go ahead and roll the video.
Okay.
Thank you.
Small businesses are a critical part of the U.S. economy, and through the SBA's Surety Bond Guarantee Program, we help small businesses at various stages. Emerging businesses that need contract surety bonds but may be new to bonding, as well as established businesses looking to increase their current bonding limits and capacity. For over 50 years, SBA's Surety Bond Guarantee Program has been a trusted program creating access, opportunity, and stability for thousands of small businesses needing surety bonds, adding more than $7 billion a year in contract bonds. You own a small business in construction or service industry and require a contract surety bond. With SBA guaranteed bonds, your working capital requirements are lower and your bond capacity is increased. The result, you compete for larger contracts or build your business as a prime contractor. Who benefits when small businesses get access to surety bonds? We all do. With access to bonds and increased bonding limits, small businesses grow, and that growth has ripple effects, such as hiring employees from local communities and contributing to the national economy. Convenience, not hassle. The program has low barriers to entry. It's easy to use. The entire process is electronic, and you receive fast decisions within hours for smaller contracts and less than 2 days for large dollar contracts. Sound like a program for you? Reach out to your local SBA district office to learn more, or take the first step to apply for the program by connecting with a surety agent authorized to issue SBA guarantee bonds. Find a surety partner at sba.gov/OSG. Because at SBA, we make small business our business.
Okay, so thank you, Earl, for that. I would just say, you know, with the surety bonding again, so if you're looking to secure bonding for, you know, a government or other type of contracts, and say, for example, you're new to construction or some of the service areas, you've never completed a project, you know, if there's credit issues, you have very little capital, or if you have a bond and you want higher limits, you know, we're here to make that happen for you. So if you need additional information on surety bonding, I'll be glad to connect with our surety bonding folks, and we'll definitely give additional information to you. So with that, I'm going to stop right there, and I'll turn it back over to you, Scott.
All right, I'm back with you, Larry. Never was away, just behind the scene here. Thank you so much for taking the time and going through this. A couple questions have come across the transom. The first is from Louis Runyon, who asked, what's the current process time for CVE? And do you plan on improving or keeping that process time the same once it's at the SBA?
Well, we know, and this is how I'm feeling personally. I think the CVE, as we all know, for years there was some, it was a little distressful, I guess would be a good way to put it. But they have made some significant improvements to the CVE, and I've been in this position since 2018. And when I first came on board, literally, I don't think a month went by that I didn't have a meeting with groups in the veteran small business community, talking about the VA and what the CVE wasn't doing. They were well over the 90 days. I think they have a 90-day statutory requirement for processing. And so like I just said, in the last couple of years, they've turned that around big time. I think the average processing time now is like about 34 days or less, depending on if they're using the simplified process. And then they've added a very high touch customer service approach. And I've heard some amazing stories about customer service, to include, a customer service rep who's on vacation, who reached out to the veteran to say, hey, don't forget to do such and such a thing, reaching out to the veteran from the beach. So we know at SBA that we have a very high bar to maintain, and that is something that we're looking at, and that's why I'm going to say this, but I probably shouldn't, because it hasn't been. It's just my thinking. And I think more people are beginning to think like me, but it hasn't been discussed with Administrator Guzman or Mr. McDonough. But the team that they have now, they know the CVE process, and so when we start talking about verification contracts and things of that nature, I would like very much, and again, this is Larry Stubblefield speaking, I would like very much for those folks to come over to SBA. And I know people will say, well, you got your system is not the same as VIM's, whatever you design. But I'm looking at it like, you may have learned to drive a Ford Fusion, and now you're going to get an Audi. If you know how to drive, you know how to drive. And those people are definitely up on top of that high touch approach to customer service. The same people in 2018 that used to call me, complaining about the CVE are singing their praises today. So yes, that is something that we are definitely concerned about. We do not, and I'll quote Administrator McMahon now, or I'm sorry, Administrator Guzman. She has talked about not failing the veteran small business community and not letting the standards, the established standards go down.
Great, thanks, Larry. Another CVE related question from Frederick Chandler. How long will the SBA CVE certification be good for?
We wrestle with 3 years or 5. And so for the proposed rule, we left it at 3. But we want to look at that again after we go through the public comment period. We're expecting to hear, for those who would advocate for maybe a longer period of time.
Great. Hey, Larry, just on the, could you follow up a little bit? And, you mentioned using a new system versus some of the existing certification systems that, that are being used right now at the SBA. What are you trying to avoid by using the new system? Tell us what the positives are that you think you'll mitigate. You and I have both been in the same room at MVSBC conferences where a woman veteran stands up and says, veteran certification went great, swimmingly. Don't do what the women's certification does because it hasn't worked for me. What do you see as the benefits with this new approach that you're trying to mitigate in the process?
Well, I know one, every time I've been out, or at least a number of times, a question that I get is, are we going to stand the new system up on certified.gov? So the answer is no. The answer is no. We're looking at this unified lending platform. We had a very good experience with the contractor who came in and established the PPP forgiveness and the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Both of those programs went off without a hitch. And so we're looking to take that system, or at least that platform, and enhance that platform, and then move all of our lending to that platform and all of our certification programs. And as some of you may or may not know, we have a disaster loan as well, and that's the only loan that's really made through SBA. Our other loans are, we back banks. We do the guaranteed loans with banks. So that the disaster lending has been moved over to our Office of Capital Access, and they're also going to be on this platform. So as I mentioned earlier, the vision is, like one-stop shopping, a one-stop shop, I should say, and something that is of ease, utilizing the best technical capabilities that are out there that would put SBA, in my way of saying this, would move us to the 21st century.
Great, thanks. One last question on CVE, then we've got a couple more that on some of the other topics that we discussed. But there are some of, particularly our more mature veteran-owned companies that are challenged with some of the processes and approaches that the VA takes for certification. And particularly the more mature or complex structure, in many cases, there's some feeling that some of the processes and approach that the VA takes to certification might be onerous and not necessary. Can you talk us through how you're looking at the process and whether will this just be a whole scale, do it like the VA does it? Or are you taking some time to evaluate the process and what's being done? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. Thank you for that question. Very good one. I'll tell the audience that the VA looks at, and again, this is my interpretation of what they're saying to us, because we are looking at what they do. They are very concerned about risks. I mean, this is about risk management. And, you can implement a system where a lot of concern about fraud. We all hear about, rent a veteran and things of that nature. You can implement a system where you're looking for zero defects and like you say, make it very onerous. Or you can implement a system like I saw a demo of this, the platform we're thinking about building on, we would like to build on. And, and it has provisions in there for checking for fraud and things of that nature. So this is about risk management, and the way we feel is that there's always going to be bad actors out there, but the most people who have worn a uniform are honorable people. And if we can design a system, the administrator talks in terms of meeting people where they are, and making things more accessible, making things more user-friendly. And I can guarantee all of you, as long as Isabella Guzman is the administrator, that's the way this new system is going to be built.
Great. I'm going to move you to surety bonds, but I'm not sure how, you and I talked beforehand. I'm not sure that this might be one you need to pass on and we can get a follow-on answer. We've got one of our loyal members, Adam Millerin, is asking, how can a surety agency get a spot on the SBA surety agency database at the, at sba.gov.osg? And I'm not certain you can answer that question, and we can certainly
we will take that one back, because I know there's a process for getting the surety companies kind of like certified and registered to be in the SBA program. I just don't know, like, I'm not the subject matter expert on how to do that, but what we'll do, Scott, we'll take that one back. I believe I have Taylor on here with me, so normally she takes the notes, and we'll get an answer back to you so you can get it out to your
great.
members.
Yeah, I'm showing Taylor's here too, and we all know who the success of managing all these things are under over there with Taylor. As long as we've got that name in our list, we're going to be good to go. Adam also wants to know if the CVE platform build out is going to require a surety bond. Always looking for business too, right? So that's another question.
No, I don't think so. Not in this particular case.
Gotcha. And please send your questions forward, folks, if you have any more. Let me just make sure that that we get this. Ray Milano from the SBA just posted, Adam, we'll be able to get you some information there on how to become a surety partner. There's a link there in the SBA.gov as well. So thanks for that, Ray. Let's talk just for a second. You alluded to the 3% to 5%, or the 3% SDVOSB, and it's more of an observation, but we are absolutely concerned about that. And I think we've observed that some in government don't understand that SDB, small disadvantaged business, does not include veteran businesses. And so the idea that, you can be certified in both, but just by the nature of SDB does not include veteran. And we are concerned that we're seeing we're robbing from Peter to pay Paul, and particularly when we've seen such success in 16 of the 24 agencies are exceeding the 3% veteran goal, and we're seeing many of those up in the 4.5%. Truthfully, what I've been witnessing over the last few months, and certainly the veteran business owners are seeing it, is that agencies are taking contracts so that because they're in their minds they're exceeding their goals for veterans, and they're going to use that excess percentage of 1 to 1.5% to help get to the 11% on the SDB side. So it's like I said, it's a statement. You and I can work on this. I know your commitment to veteran small business, but we are absolutely worried about maintaining a 3% and the risk that that's going to create to existing contract opportunities for the veteran-owned businesses as agencies start to prioritize against goals and look for ways to achieve higher percentages in other set-asides. If we don't have a corresponding increase to the veteran set-aside percentage, I truly believe, as do many, that we will see a decrease in veteran small business opportunities out there. So we'll keep a close eye on that. You and I talk all the time about this, and I just want to assure those who are listening too that we are focused on this at NVSBC and have been meeting regularly with congressional reps about those percentages, and we will also continue to be advocating for those funds and resources that SBA needs to make sure that they're funded to get this certification process done. Good news that the money made it into the presidential budget, and now we're engaging to make sure it stays in that budget as it goes through the appropriations. As I was talking, a couple more questions, Larry, if you don't mind, from Suzanne Charleston. will the VA Small Business Conference be coming back in 22? And will the SBA be participating? That may be something I don't know if you've heard about.
I have heard Sharon Ridley, I think at our last advisory committee meeting, that question came up, and she said that they are working through it and planning on it. And if they do have it, SBA, we will be there.
Okay, great. And let me get my questions lined up here. Matthew Mulchin, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your last name. I'm anticipating submitting for an SDVOSB certificate. Should I move forward or wait for the transition? Great question.
He's in the process now.
He's anticipating submitting.
I would say do it now. Do it now. We don't want to, there's a possibility that there may be a bottleneck, and it would just be one thing, less to worry about if you get it done now. We're asking everyone, if you're in that window or you're thinking about it, do it now. And the VA has agreed to it as well.
Yeah, Matthew, I'm glad to hear Larry say that. I'm telling you, as a small business rep that represents all of you, get it done now. If you'd rather have it done now and then wait the 3 years for this to settle out over at SBA, anytime you change things, there are going to be challenges, and why risk that? And that applies to all of those companies that are self-certified out there. If you jumped into the VA system right now, get it knocked out, then you can wait a year or two before you have to recertify to give them time to get things settled. And Larry's team doesn't need this huge elephant to eat in that volume that will hit because of the requirements of increasing the number of companies that will need certification. So there's a little bit of advocacy for you of just on the elephant that you have to eat on January 1st too, Larry.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that brings up another important point too. I've had veteran business owners ask if they're currently certified, and they're not in the window for recertification. When it moves over to SBA, do they have to become recertified again? And the answer is no. Whatever your status is with the VA on January 1, 2023, it's going to be, it'll revert to SBA. So if you just got your certification today, you have nothing to worry about, for 3 years.
Great. Similarly related, from Eric Weaver, he's asking, I'm gathering information needed to apply for SDVOSB for 3 companies. Will it be less difficult with SBA than with VA, ? And should I do all at once or one at a time? And I'm not sure, but we'll go ahead, give your initial thoughts on that, Larry.
I would say I'm thinking that it's going to be, we're planning on having, streamlining the process somewhat, but at the same time, I don't want him to think, well, wait till 1 January 2023. So I think that's a choice he would have to make. And then working with the VA, one thing I would say is, like with our P-tax, some of our VBOCs, I know Ray is on, some of them are verification counselors. I would reach out to a P-tac or a VBOC and address the 3 company situation with a counselor.
Yeah, that sounds like a great suggestion, Larry. I'm not sure the complexity of that question that Eric, you should get up with one of the VBOC teams and get a little more clarity on what you can and can't do when it comes to that. Mark Goldschmidt is asking, will companies that are certified as 8A or WASB need to submit for SDVOSB also?
8A and, well, I mean, I'm just trying to understand the question. Do they want to be certified? I guess that's what I would ask. I mean, do they want that certification?
So I think by that question, you're saying if they want to be SDV OSB certified, they still need to submit for SDV OSB certification, regardless of their WASB or 8A status. Is that a correct
Yes.
statement? Okay. And let me see. Larry, I think we have worked through most of our questions. Our timing is good. We have one statement and one volunteer, both from the same gentleman. NVSBC member number 1, Norris Middleton from MSTI. He says, great job, Larry, as usual. Look forward to talking with you at VETS 22, which is a good way to close, Larry. We do look forward to speaking with you at VETS 22, and we know you're going to be down there talking more about CVE. And finally, Norris says you can count MSTI to be part of the test process. So you've got your first veteran company volunteer to test the SBA process as well in that process.
Yeah, I want to say, just a special hi to Norris, and that's one of the bad outcomes, if you will, of this pandemic. Because I haven't seen Norris or a number of your members now in 2.5 years now. So Norris, good hearing from you.
Well, Larry, with that, we've met our goal of time, but also more importantly, our time of information. And we sure appreciate you asking. Yes, the slides will be made available, and the recording as well. You can expect to see those by Friday for those who are asking. On behalf of NVSBC, Larry, again, thanks for you and Ray Milano, the V-Box, the whole team over at SBA and your partnership. We sure appreciate that. I also would like to thank, again, our sponsors, BAE Systems and Philips North America, for their generous contributions that allow us to provide this training series free of charge to the registrants. And finally, I'll see you all in Orlando. We look forward to seeing you all May 17th through the 20th, VETS 22 in Orlando. We know Larry will be there. We know Ray Milano and the V-Box will be down there. You'll have a great concentration of experts down there to help discuss this and so many other areas. So please make your reservations, get on the registration site, and we wish you all a great rest of the day. And again, thanks again to Mr. Earl Morgan for facilitating this great discussion as well. We'll see you all next time. Thanks so much. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.